We are going to talk about gardening tonight. Now, the interesting thing is, first of all, I'm Kay Denniston from the Bourbon County Extension Office, and I drew the short straw and got the first lesson of the year. So thought I was going to be lucky and getting this right when people could do some fall gardening and everything. Little did I know I was going to be the guinea pig, but it's a new year. It's a new way. We can talk about it all night long, and still some of us agree and disagree the good or the bad that's coming out of all of this. The biggest thing is, we as FCS agents in your county, we want to help you. We want to help you through this. We want to help you with your like we've always done. We want to be there, and we welcome any kind of feedback you can give us about any other ideas of methods of presentation with all of this. But at the point in time now where we can we're very restricted for our safety and for yours, this is the best we can I could come up with at this time. But please do not hesitate to email me or your local agent and let them know your needs and what we can do to help you through this. We'll do what we can. There's no promises. I can't send you a check. That's not one of my options. I'll tell you right now. You can save your time. But I do worry about my people, and I am a people person, so I enjoy seeing people. So the interesting thing about this lesson, I think, is you reap what you sow. Gardening options. It was voted on by you all as homemakers as a lesson for this year, long before the pandemic. And I find that really interesting, because I think we as a society have gotten so spoiled, or at least I know Kay has, of I need something, I run to the grocery, I buy it, pick it up, bring it home, use it. And at the beginning of this pandemic, what happened was I needed it. I went to the grocery, the shelves were bare. Sometimes I could get it, sometimes I couldn't. I had to learn to adjust, adapt, and then I'm thinking, oh my gracious, what happened to the good old-fashioned gardening that I used to do? So it's interesting that this topic came about before we knew we were doing the pandemic. So first thing I want to talk to you a little bit about is the victory gardens. You might have read some about this in some of your newsletters, or you may have heard something on the newspapers or podcast or anything about basically victory gardens were very popular in the United States during World War I and World War II. But now our Ag Commissioner, Ryan Quarles, he announced that the Kentucky Department of Agriculture was going to team up or partner up with the University of Kentucky's Cooperative Extension Service and the Kentucky's Nutritional Education Program to get in touch with our agricultural roots during this pandemic and get back to the victory gardens. So what was the purpose of the victory garden? Well, they were also called war gardens. And what happened, these gardens were raised during a time of crisis, like I said, World War I and World War II primarily. And the victory gardens, along with the rationing and the stamps that were given out, kept our country from suffering a food crisis during those times. So the whole concept of reviving the victory garden was to save us from a food crisis. And the original victory gardens, what they did, they raised garden plants anywhere they could find soil. If there was a piece of soil, they stuck a plant in it. They had they had gardens in parking lot medians. They had plants planted on playgrounds if there was soil there. They had them in window boxes, any place, down fence rows. If there was soil there, they would plant a plant. And then they would harvest the produce from that plant. And it was kind of basically, if it was outside of your property, it was kind of like a community property. Anytime the beans came on, you better be the first one to get there or you miss them. But in doing this, everything that was grown commercially could be used for our men, our soldiers, our men and women that were serving the country. They used up most of our commercial food to feed them. Commissioner Quarles is hoping that bringing back the Victory Garden will boost morale. It'll make you feel better mentally, physically, actually working in that garden, working in that soil. I am going to stop right here and tell you I am a country girl, and I've had to correct my notes. I've had to correct my slides because I call it dirt. But when you're gardening, you're supposed to call it soil, or so my horticulture agent tells me. So if I accidentally say dirt, I think you know what I'm talking about, okay? I'll just get that out in the open right now. Please note that this Victory Garden poster that's on the slide, can everybody see the slides? I forgot to ask. Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The back of the slide, you can call, if you did not get this ahead of time from your extension office, the extension office has these posters, and on the back, it talks about the benefits of gardening. It talks about recommendations for a family of 4, if you had 150 square feet, a family of 2, how you can go about it. But some of the things we're going to talk about tonight, but I just wanted you to see the poster and get a little bit background. If you heard anything about Victory Gardens and the extension office, you know what they were talking about. So, Mary, do we have any Marys on here? No Marys? Well, Mary, quite contrary, how does your garden grow? Well, we've got all kinds of options, and these options are based on the amount of space you have. You have the good old traditional garden that you see on the far left of the slide that is in a ground plot. Traditional gardening with rows of plants is what I grew up with as a garden. I don't know about many of you all, but that's what I grew. Now, I will honestly say our garden had a few more weeds in between those rows than what Miss Lakes does. This is Janet Lake's garden. She put that picture on Facebook, and I asked her if I could share it. She's a homemaker here at the Bourbon County Extension Homemakers. So that's your traditional plot. It's in the ground. My grandparents, even, the thing I remember most about the traditional gardening was if you had a row of plants, they did what's called intercropping. And they might plant pole beans there with a post and string for the pole beans to climb up. But down toward the ground, they would plant squash right beside of it. So they could have one row, but 2 different plants. So they did some intercropping, and a lot of people did during those times. The plants the beds in the middle are what we call raised beds. The one to the left on the raised bed just could be called a container or a raised bed. This is one that one of our employees' husbands made this. Oh my goodness. And it has buckets. Okay, it has containers, and she has tomato plants up here in the top, pepper plants at the bottom. But wouldn't that be easy to go out and harvest and pull things off of and not have to get down on your knees or bend over and pick beans or whatever? I thought that was very interesting. And then the one at the bottom is one that we're trying to use with some of our apartments here in Bourbon County. It's a feed trough. I don't know if you can see that or not. We're just starting ours. That's actually from a Jessamine County project that they use. But they had an apartment complex. They were trying to teach the people in the apartment complex the value of gardening and how to go about gardening. And they did not have any soil or dirt or that was communal property. So they just had a feed trough donated, and they filled it with soil. And I believe they were raising lettuce there. And then on the far side, you've got your container gardens. Now, this little picture I used here, this little container garden is a little bit too full probably, but it gives you a good idea of if you don't have land that you can till up, or maybe where you live has restrictions on having gardens, but you have large pots or plants, pots or flower pots or anything like that, even the window boxes I was telling you about. then you can have gardening in those things as well. I will tell you, the terracotta pots, if you know what I'm talking about, are awesome. They're hard to get a hold of right now. A lot of people are into gardening, but the terracotta pots, you soak those sometimes up to 2 days before you plant in them, and they retain moisture. And also, if they're sitting out in the rain and the terracotta gets wet, it will retain the moisture in the dirt. Okay. Now we're ready to start gardening. We're going to select us a site. The first thing I cannot say enough about is once you've decided which kind you want, whether you want the traditional or the raised bed or the flower pot or the container ones, make it convenient for you. A garden is a commitment. A garden is a commitment. It is work. It doesn't just jump into your kitchen. It does not just grow without some tender loving care. The first thing I think of in this bullet of make a garden convenient for you is when I was younger living at home, my family had a garden, and one year we decided we wanted to increase the size of the garden quite a bit, but we didn't have land close by. So we had another piece of property where you had to get in the car and go to it. And, well, we didn't go every day because it was not convenient. And you really, if at all possible, you need to be in a garden a couple times a week, at least at a minimum. Every day would be even better, because that way you're going to stay on top of problems or issues that you need to address, or even when it comes harvest time, that way you don't lose some of your product. But needless to say, that year that we had that huge garden, we lost probably more money on plants and seeds and things because it was inconvenient to drive over there and take care of it. So you make it convenient for you, because you're the one that's going to have to take care of it as far as the site. Now, the next thing is you need at least 6 to 8 hours of sunlight every day. That's what plants grow on: nutrients from the soil, water from the sky, and the sun from the sky. And all plants need anywhere from 6 to 8 hours of sunlight. And when you're picking this spot, look for spots where other things are growing well. Don't look at a bare spot in a yard and say, oh my gracious, nothing's growing there. That's a good place to put a garden because I won't have any weeds. Not. Okay? If weeds won't grow there, then your garden's probably not going to grow there either. So be real cautious about where you're putting your location of your garden. If there's nothing growing there, that shows that there's a lack of organic content and nutrients in that soil. Soil drainage is very important. You don't want water standing. You don't want, if you want to test the best way to test the soil to see if it drains well is dig a hole in the site that you're considering. Dig a hole that's about 1 foot wide and 1 foot deep. Fill it up with water. If that water disappears in 1 to 2 days, then that soil probably drains well. If it does not drain well, then you're going to have problems with root rot, and you're going to have a lot of disease.
Oh, I forgot to move it, didn't I?
So
just roll it up and put it in that ashtray, one of them ashtrays.
Hey,
yeah.
can you remind people about turning off their
Yes.
audio?
Please, if you can mute your audio, it's less distractive. I'm trying to see if if I could get to the chat room, which I can't. Shonda, are you still there? If you can get to the chat room, I think there's a place where you can mute everyone.
I will try to figure it out.
I think it's in the chat room at the bottom. I'm going to go on, okay?
I was going to say, because I'm not the host, I don't know that I can.
Oh, I thought everybody could. Okay. my problem. If everybody could kind of take care of that, that would be good, because it is distracting. Also, plan away from trees. Trees are going to steal. Your trees are going to steal the nutrients from your plants. The other thing we don't realize is when you look at a tree, the roots extend 3 to 4 times farther than the tree shades. If you stand at the base of a tree and look straight up, and you can see how far that tree it covers the canopy of the tree, just think that the roots of that tree go 3 to 4 times farther. So you're going to need to stay away from those roots, because the roots are going to create problems for nutrients, as well as when you get ready to dig the dirt, you're going to find some problems. Also, black walnut trees. I don't have that on there, but black walnut trees, which we do have some in Kentucky, you want to stay away from those because they have a substance or give off a substance in their leaves and their roots. It's Juglone. I'll butcher it in pronouncing it probably. I think it's juglone. But it interferes with the growth of most of your veggies, and it can create disease with your veggies. Another thing about trees is they attract all these little critters like raccoons. Okay, you don't want to have raccoons in your corn because they find it without the tree. Okay, trees also will steal the sunshine. If you're going to have trees or buildings, they should be on the north side of your garden. If they are on the southeast or west, they will steal the sunshine. If we're on the north side, they don't tend to shade as much in our part of the United States. But, and they also prevent a little bit of wind from getting to your garden. Any questions over selecting our sites? Okay, we're ready to plant. If you've not gardened before, I strongly suggest you start out small, because you've heard me say once or twice, and you'll probably hear me say at least 5 more times, a garden is a commitment. Okay? I love them. I love fresh produce. I enjoy watching things grow. I love preserving them and having veggies in the winter from a garden, but they are work, and their work schedule does not necessarily evolve around your work schedule. In other words, they don't wait to ripen when you are available to do freezing and canning. They ripen according to Mother Nature's plan, not yours. Also, select plants that your family will eat, that you're actually going to use. If you know that nobody in your family likes peppers, then don't plant peppers just because your neighbors are, or because the guy at the end of the street was selling plants when you were wanting to do a garden. Select crops. You want to make yourself successful. Don't set yourself up for failure. And if you don't like peppers, I'll almost guarantee you'll have a bumper crop of peppers, because it always seemed like whatever we liked the least is what we had the most of. So be careful about what you're choosing to plant in your garden. Be familiar with the characteristics about your plants that you're choosing. By that, what I mean is, how long does it take for that plant to mature? When can I expect to harvest vegetables from that plant? When should I put this on? And that's why I have a calendar over here on the side. I had a picture. I had one that show you the front of it too. The extension office may still have some of these growing your own garden. They're great calendars for gardening because they are slick and you can write on them. And it's kind of like journaling and gardening, because if you put a garden out in May, and let's say you decided to put out, let's say you put out 5 tomato plants. And then in July and August, especially August when tomatoes are coming on, you realize you didn't plant enough tomato plants. You need more for your family. So you go back to August, what you would do is when you planted in May, you would write down how many plants you purchased. And then in August, when you realize that wasn't enough, you can go back to May so that you have your May calendar next year and say you want to increase it to 10 or you want to increase it to 15, whatever fits yours. These, and they also have tips in them. These are great little calendars. If you can call your extension office and see if you, and I might have a couple left. I don't know. If you can't get them, let me know. But it also tells you on there, you can't read it, but it tells you what you should be doing in week 1 in August in our growing zone. And I'll read it to you. In week 1, you should begin to seed transplants and trays for your fall gardening. Week 2, check on your sweet corn and see if it's ready to harvest. So it tells you when to anticipate these things. It's a real handy little tool, and it's like I said, because you can wipe it off. You can write in it with a dry erase pen and then wipe it off for next year and have it ready to go. When you are picking plants, oh, there you go, Shonda, thank you. When you're picking plants for your garden, consider plants that might attract pollinators and beneficial insects. Pollination with especially our bees is getting to be quite a problem in our world right now. So if you want to plant things that will attract that, that might be helpful too. Also be mindful about what you're going to do with your garden. Okay, do you want to have things to preserve for the winter, or do you just want to have it to enjoy the summer? That will affect how you plan your garden. Rotation is extremely important. That's what I was looking for. It's right up there on the bullet. A rotation to reduce pest problems and increase fertility of the soil. What I mean by that, especially people like to have tomato plants. Even if you don't have a garden, I've noticed a lot of people have tomato plants. They'll put out 2 or 3 tomato plants. You should not plant tomatoes or peppers in the same location for more than 3 years. In 3 years' time, that spot of soil will be drained of all the nutrients that it takes to produce quality tomatoes and peppers. So what you do is you put tomatoes and peppers there, and it really did well, and you want to put it back there next year, that's okay. But after that 3rd year, you need to put some green beans and corn in there, or something that's going to up the fertility. And after you have it with green beans and corn for about 3 years, then you can go back to tomatoes, because that corn and green beans, which are perfect examples, a lot of this is chemistry that I won't get into, but green beans and corn is a great replacement for soil that has been raising tomato plants. I always encourage people to grow one thing, not a lot of it because you're not sure, but be adventuresome or experiment. Grow one thing that you may have never had, just to see how you like it. I always think of the example of green beans. Maybe you do like green beans, maybe you don't like green beans, but try a different variety of green beans. I don't know how many of you have ever tried dragon tongue green beans. They're not green, number one. They have the same, they look like the green bean, but they're just not green, and they're kind of a purple and yellow. They are delicious, especially mixed in with another bean. But the thing I like about them is if you've got children that will not eat green and they don't like to eat vegetables, but they're into dragons and things like that, you can say, hey, let's try these dragon tongues. And that worked with my nephew. And I'll always remember that because he'd never had dragon tongue until he came to my house. So dragon tongues are a good idea of being adventurous and trying something different that you can enjoy. Working the soil. Good soil is the backbone of a healthy garden. I will repeat. Good soil is the backbone of a healthy garden. I can't repeat that enough. That's probably the biggest thing here. If the soil's not good, the soil is what supplies the plant with the nutrients, and if the soil doesn't have the nutrients, then you're going to struggle with raising any type of produce there. Good soil produces good produce. So what we're going to do, we're going to work that soil. It's easiest to work the soil in the spring. If you're doing the traditional gardening, you're probably going to want somebody to plow your little plot or use a rototiller. You can work the soil with a shovel. You need to go down 1 to 2 feet and turn that dirt. Down 1 to 2 feet and turn that dirt. If you're doing very much with that shovel, you're going to get tired real fast. So I highly recommend in traditionals, you could do that in a raised bed pretty easy. You could probably even do it with a trowel, and mixing the dirt. And at the end here, I'm going to show you how I mix some dirt, I hope. But anyway, when you're wanting to work in the garden, you don't want to work when it's wet. If you look at the picture there to the side, a test for moisture, if you're thinking about planting or you're thinking about working the soil, if you go down and just go out in the garden area and pick up a big clump of the soil and squeeze it in your hand, if it clumps up, then it's too moist. If it doesn't clump up, if it's kind of loose but not powdery, like the one on the right, then that's a good time to work your soil. Also, you need to remove large sticks and rocks, because I have found that plants do not grow well on sticks or rocks. So you want to get those out of there to make more room for the dirt and make it. You might want to consider adding some organic matter, because it will give nutrients, loosens the heavy soil, allows for sandy. But what are these organic matters? There's 3 types. There's plants, which is leaves, straw, grass clippings, okay? All 3 of those come from a plant. If you're going to use grass clippings to add to your soil to increase the organic matter, you need to do that several months before you're ready to plant, because you want to give it time to break down or start to deteriorate. You're wanting that to start to work into the soil. You can use animal manure, cow manure, chicken manure, rabbit manure. You put 1 inch of that on top. This is ideally, you'd put about 1 inch on top of your soil, and then mix it in with the rototiller or mix it in with a shovel. Compost is decayed plant matter. That's like decayed potato peels or decayed food matter. And you do it the same way as you do the manure. You do 1 inch layer, work it into the soil. Some of you might have compost in your homes. How do we know whether to do this or not? I highly recommend in testing your soil. If you do a test on your soil, you will know what it's lacking in. And you're going to do this soil test after the soil is worked. In other words, after you've plowed it up or tilled it or loosened it. And then I would call your extension office for guidance on your testing. It's available for free in a lot of your counties. If it's not free in your county, the most it's going to cost you is $6 to $7. And that way, what happens is you take that dirt, you take a sample of it. There's a certain amount you need. We need to mute again, I think.
Everybody make sure they
check our mutes.
Yours is muted.
Because this part's kind of important. It's a service that's available to you that I'd like for you to know about.
I think it's a few people that might be on the phone, not necessarily on a computer.
Oh, okay.
So everybody kind of just make sure, or if you can't mute, try to make sure the background noise is a little bit less.
I can fix this. Hold on just a second. It won't take me long, I promise.
Kay has the power. She does have the power.
Well, I thought because I made you...
Am I co-host?
Yeah. I can't find it.
Kay's got more power than I do. I think you got almost.
There we go, I think. We'll see. We'll find out. Sorry for that. Okay, this soil test.
Next slide.
Okay, there we go. This soil test, you collect soil. You have to have a certain amount. And they have little bags at the extension office. You put the soil in. You bring it in. We send it to UK. You do need to remember that all this testing is being done at UK for the entire state. So it's going to take approximately 2 weeks to get your results back. So don't wait till the day before you want to put the plants in the ground to get your soil tested. You actually should do this probably right after you work your ground in March. And after that test is tested at UK, they run tests on it to see what the soil's liking in. Thank you. Shonda's got a bag. Oh, you're such a great assistant, Vanna White. And then your agent will write recommendations for you. And actually the next slide is about fertilizing. And I am going to I'm just going to tread on this very lightly because it's going to be different for every single one of you probably. I can't tell you exactly what fertilizer to put on your garden because I have not tested your soil. I can tell you that it may not be needed if you use the compost that we talked about, but it might, and you're not going to know unless you test it. I can also tell you that the numbers on the bag are in order of the amount of nitrogen. The second number is phosphorus, and the third number is potassium. It's listed in that order on almost all of the fertilizer bags. It's supposed to be that way. Now, I know better than to make guarantees, but they're listed in that order. So when your horticulture or your ag agent says that you need more phosphorus, then you look for one high number in phosphorus. I can also tell you to need to wash your hands after handling fertilizer. There are chemicals in there that are dangerous. They can cause damage to your eyes. They're just, make sure you wash your hands even if you use gloves. So I will address questions on fertilizing if you want. It's just going to be very individual, which makes it hard to address in a PowerPoint. It's more a
Hey, can I tell a little story?
Sure.
So my dad, before I even worked at the extension office, he had tried to utilize the soil sampling up here. But before he did that, the reason he needed to is because he felt like people say add organic material, add things, and he was adding, I guess, the ashes from after your fireplace. You know, you take your soot and all of those things, and it's supposed to be
Clean
good.
out his chimney.
Which is great, but apparently is pretty high in, I think, nitrogen. And so he couldn't understand. And so it's one of those things that's really important to kind of check with people who may know a little bit more than you, like our ag agents or hort agents, who'd be able to do that because he thought he was doing a great thing, but he had done too much. And it took a while to get those levels back to get together. So
that's a great point because it's a whole lot easier to put that in the ground than it is to take it out.
Yes.
That's a great point I'm glad you brought that up because check with someone that have the test run. Like I said, it's either free or $6 to $7. Call your office. It depends on the county. But be patient, 2 weeks. Okay. So now we're ready to plant something. We're going to put something in this ground so we can eat something. We're finally ready to do that. There's two types of seeding. You got a direct seeding and this one, if you cook, it's the same thing. You read a recipe when you cook, or a lot of people do. I mean, my grandmother didn't, so some people may not. But direct seeding, read your packet, read your packet, read your packet. On the back of your packet, it will tell you how far apart, how deep to put the seed. Go by the directions on the packet. I thought I had a packet here. I took it to the other room so we can plant it in a minute. I'm sorry. But it's basically putting seed in dirt. Transplanting is a little bit different. Transplanting is the best results for, there you go. Shonda's got our seed packet up there. It's either upside down or backwards, but it's there. Okay, the directions are on the back. Transplanting, you take a plant that was started indoors. Usually those are the plants that cannot handle frost, can't handle the cold weather. And like it says on the slide, it will speed things up. Transplanting, if you're moving a plant from a greenhouse or from, even if you buy them at Lowe's or wherever, I don't know, I shouldn't promote anyone, Tractor Supply, the list goes on and on. If you're going to put it in the ground, you need to do it the best time. You'll get the best results if you do it early morning, cloudy day, or late day. Now let's think. What do those three things have in common? It's the coolest part of the day. Early morning, cloudy day, it's not quite as hot, and late day. It's because first of all, you want that, and I left that out, so sorry, let me back up a little bit. The transplant, when you get ready to move that plant from the little plug that you bought or raised in your greenhouse, and you're going to go put it in the soil, it needs to have been watered. Not right then, but right before then. It should be moist. It shouldn't be soggy, but it should be moist. And you want that plant to have that moisture to live on for a while. And if you plant it in the heat of the day or on a windy day, it will dry it out. So the reason you're planting early morning, late day, cloudy day is to maintain or keep the moisture in the roots of that plant as long as possible. A good transplant will have roots that are well developed and growing tightly in the plot. And like, I'm looking at my notes now, it says before transplanting, make sure plants have been watered recently. Not necessarily right as you're putting it in the ground, but recently. They shouldn't be soaking wet, but they should be moist. To transplant it, pardon?
I was just gonna add, but I'll let you finish first.
Oh, okay. To transplant, you just make a hole. The size of the hole will depend on the size of the plant. You want the entire root to fit comfortably inside the hole. You don't want it too deep. You want it to be about ground level or a little bit below. And then once you dig the hole, you place the plant in it like they're doing in the picture. Then you scoop the dirt back up around the plant. The soil is put back in the hole, and the plant should stand straight up on its own after you fill the hole up. And the roots should be covered. If the roots are not covered, back up and repeat, because you're wasting your time. If those roots are exposed to all the sun and everything that's going to come along, animals and everything else, then it's probably not going to survive. So, and then after you've pushed the soil up around the plant and it's standing there just really cute little plant that you're going to watch grow, don't pack it down real tight. It should be firm, but don't. A lot of people I see step on plants. Well, then that typically breaks the stem off. Okay, Shonda, did you have something else on that? Or?
I was just gonna say that if you do grow them from seed inside, like in a greenhouse or something like that, or if you're doing it inside, just give them a little bit of time to acclimate when you take them. So like if you buy them from Lowe's and Rural King and that kind of stuff, a lot of times they're already outside. So those might not need to be, but if you feel super adventurous and want to start it from a seed, but they're inside your house, go ahead and put them outside for a little bit during that cool part of the day and get them used to being outside in their new home.
Thank you. Okay, everybody, after I've told you that so many times to mute, we're going to unmute because I need some feedback from you. You can either put it in the chat room if you're shy and don't want to talk, or if you are you can shout it out. I'm okay. Because we're going to do some interacting of plant spacing. And some of your gardeners may already know this, but if not, let's just guess, okay? Because it's time, you know, Zooms get long and boring after a while. So let's do some matching. How far apart, if you're planting cucumbers in your garden, how far apart do you think you should space your cucumbers to get the best growth and production?
I wouldn't plant them because I don't like them.
I love that, Susan. Okay, somebody that likes cucumbers, guess.
No,
3
12 inches.
What?
3 inches.
Well,
Somebody said 12,
12.
somebody said 3. Oops.
3.
Oh, no.
Probably 18.
1 inch. That's actually what I do.
No, it's not 1 inch. No. It's supposed to be little lines that come up and go over and give you the answers, but it didn't happen. So I will give you the answers. It's 12 to 16 inches. And see, there's supposed to be a little line that when I click.
Okay, the lines are on our, if you have a printed copy, the lines are on there.
Oh.
That's how I knew.
Oh, she's
She cheated.
She's cheating. I love it. I love it, Sue.
So,
I love it.
She
Okay.
used her resources.
yes.
Well, let me tell you something. I got so excited. My secretary did that. I don't know how to do it. And she did this, and I probably screwed it up because I was practicing a while ago, and it's probably a one-time deal. But I thought, I feel so special because I can just click, and that little line will go straight down to that 12 to 16 inches. Okay, we'll do it the old-fashioned way. So you can't play anymore.
Okay.
Look, she's letting everybody else do it.
Oh, she's trying to help everybody else. I'm sorry. How far apart should we put those cabbage plants?
If you go to the
18 inches.
12 to 24 inches.
Yeah. 12.
That's 18.
18.
And they need a little more space. And how many times have you planted like a lilac bush at your house or something like that, and you think, oh, it's all the way out in the yard, and then after it grows a few years, it's up in the window and you didn't put it far enough away. Okay, same thing happens with vegetables. They need their space to acclimate. They need their space to produce. Okay, now this one, if you have ever, well, if you've ever been a tobacco farmer, you probably know this one. Tomatoes, how far apart?
12 to 24.
yeah.
18 inches, 12 to 24 is in there. But you know why I knew that? Because we used to set our tomato plants with a tobacco setter. And a tobacco setter, you put that plant in there every click, okay? With tomato plants, we had to put it every other click, which is 18 inches. Too much information, I know. Broccoli, how far are we going to put the broccoli plants?
12.
Nope.
15.
15, yay. Carrots.
3.
3.
I was going to say, I'm going to give you a hint. It's straight across from it. Okay.
1.
3
Oh,
inches.
sure. 3.
Eggplant.
Oh, that's big.
12
12.
inches.
12 inches. Yes. Beets. This used to be my job. I used to get to plant the beets.
2 to 3.
2 to 3 inches. Lettuce.
4.
4 inches. And radishes.
1.
1 inch. Have any of you ever used radishes instead of potatoes in your roast carrots and potatoes? Like if you do a roast carrots and potatoes, do roast carrots and radishes? Experiment with it some. If you ever want to do low carbs, or if you're watching carbs or sugar or whatever with diabetes, radish is a good substitute. And when you get finished cooking them, they don't look anything like a radish. They look more like a potato. Now they don't taste like a potato, but that's just a little bit extra info. Oh, I wanted to tell you too before I go on, and it's not on that part. Cool season plants versus warm season plants. Cool season crops are things that will take a little bit of frost. Okay, they don't freeze out. A hard freeze will get them, but a little bit of frost won't. And these are things that we usually plant in the early spring or the fall coming up. And things like cabbage and broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, radishes, snow peas, turnips, lettuce. I'll usually put lettuce out in the spring, early spring. And then your warm season or summer crops do not tolerate any frost. A lot of people got really excited about gardening this year and put those tomato plants out way too early. And what happened? They ended up planting tomato plants again. So people that were selling tomato plants really had a bumper season this year because they got to sell them to you twice. Tomatoes will not tolerate frost, as will beans, cucumbers, corn, pepper. None of those will tolerate. You should, rule of thumb, do not plant a garden with warm season crops until after Mother's Day, on Mother's Day or after. Now, some of you are going to say, I've always been told Derby Day. I have been too. I've heard Derby Day. I've heard Mother's Day. This past year, I don't know if y'all remember this or not, but we didn't have a Derby, but if you'd done it on what is our typical Derby Day, we had a frost after that. Now, it wasn't a freeze, it was a frost. So from here on, I'll go with Mother's Day. And I'm sure some point in time that might be too early too, but it's just easier for me to remember than a date in May. If you're watering, all plants need water to grow, okay? And they need an inch of water a week. Now, if it's out in the soil, in the dirt, and you're not sure whether it's got enough water or not, you go down from the bottom of the plant, go out 2 inches and down 2 inches. You feel, and if it's got enough moisture, you're fine. I will tell you, this is why Kay Denniston is not a very good container gardener. And if you all are, I respect it and think that's wonderful. I think container gardening is wonderful because I live in a subdivision where gardens are frowned upon. Tried it a little bit again this year. Container gardens have to be watered every day. Now, the books will tell you, and the handout that I sent to you says every 1 to 2 days. But if you don't, that soil does not retain the moisture that you're putting in it. So you've got to use more water with container gardening. I will tell you, on raised beds, they need just a little bit more, but not quite. They need 1.5 inches in a week. So the other thing I'd like for you to remember about watering is to, if at all possible, water at the base of the plant. Shoot for the base of that plant. Now, you do not have to take a glass of water and go out and water each individual plant like this picture is. I think that's a little unrealistic, but the roots are what need the water. The leaves do not need the water. They get their nutrients from their roots. The roots are what need the water. If you put water on the leaves, then it's just increasing the possibility of attracting insects, or more than that, of fungus and diseases. But water at the base of that. If you're using a sprinkler, okay, if we're going for a while without water and you decide you need to hook up the sprinkler, sprinkle early in the day. Turn your sprinkler on, leave it a while for early in the day, and then turn it off. That gives that plant all day long to get that water off of the leaf. In other words, all day long that leaf is letting that water drip to the dirt or soil and drying out a little bit. But if you're going to use a sprinkler, it's early in the day is best. The longer a leaf stays wet, the more likely you are to get disease. And then here's my favorite plant, weeds. I'm good at raising weeds. Weeds steal. It's a competition, people. It is a competition. If you don't work on it, they will win. They steal the nutrients from your plants. They steal the water from your plants. And if they get very tall, they'll shade out your plants and steal the sunshine from your plants. They also attract disease and insects. And if you're going to get weeds, if you're going out to weed a garden, don't let those weeds go to seed. The seed just causes them to drop to the ground and produce more weeds. But if you pull a weed up if you pull a weed up, and I can hear my daddy now talking about two things about chopping weeds and pulling weeds. If you pull a weed up, you don't just drop it where you pulled it, because they can reroot, and they also can release seeds into the dirt. So you've defeated your whole purpose if you do not throw that plant away out into vegetation or something, or gather it up and take it in a bucket or something like that. Hoeing, if you're using a hoe, and if you've got a large garden, you're not going to pull very many weeds. You're going to use a hoe. Make sure you cut the root of that plant. Don't just chop it off at ground level, because the root will reproduce the weeds. Okay, so it's not going to do you much good. The best way of controlling weeds is to not get them in the first place. And how do you do that? By mulching, especially in your traditional gardens. Mulch will help control weeds. The only thing I caution you on, you can use leaves as mulch, you can use grass clippings as mulch, newspaper as mulch, cardboard. The only thing I caution you about these last two, newspaper and cardboard, need to be shredded so that the water can pass through it. Now, newspaper is not as bad about this as cardboard, but if you just take cardboard out there and lay it in between, be careful. I've seen people do it. I've seen people do it successfully, but be real careful, or you're going to have water standing on top of that cardboard, and create, when you have standing water, you get mosquitoes and other insects as well. Need to know which insects are friend and which ones are enemy. We do have some beneficial insects like ladybugs, and then we have some that are pests. We've had, I don't know if many of you had the green worm on your tomatoes this year that blended right in with your tomato plant. It was even, everybody kept bringing things in here to the office saying, something's eating my tomato plant, something's eating my tomato plant. And they'd say, and Ray'd ask them, "No, do you see anything on it?" No, no, no. And then they bring the plant in, and right there's the worm. The worm is the exact same color as the plant, and they were eating the tomatoes before they ever even, the buds started turning to tomatoes. Some flowers help with keeping pests away, and then they also attract the beneficial or the friend insects. Marigolds, my grandmother put marigolds around every garden she ever had to help keep insects away. Yarrow is good for keeping insects away, or the pesty ones. I will tell you, use chemicals as a last resort. Chemicals are very controversial right now. Just watch TV and all the ads of people are wanting you to sue because you use Roundup. Chemicals of any kind are typically, if you don't read the directions, they're very dangerous. And part of the problem with a lot of these lawsuits not being, they're not winning, is because the Roundup specifically says that you are to wear masks and you are to wear gloves on the directions of the Roundup. And so we don't typically, our society, we see it, we ask our neighbor what they used on their garden, and then we go get it and we spray it, and we don't read those directions. So you can use chemicals, be very, very cautious with them. I personally am not a fan of chemicals, but use them as a last resort. The chemicals are also going to kill your bees, as well as it's going to kill your beneficial insects as well as your pests. If you're going to use it only where needed. In other words, you see a weed, you spray it. You see a weed, you spray it. You don't just massively spray your whole garden. Please, please, please keep these chemicals away from your children and any children in your neighborhood, or visiting children or grandchildren, and from your pets. Use masks and gloves, and wash your hands immediately after using them, even if you use gloves. Please. So we're finished with the garden. We've picked the site, we've planned it, we've worked the soil, we've planted it, we've harvested. Now, we didn't talk much about harvesting or food preservation. That's a whole nother lesson in itself, which I would love to be teaching food preservation right now, but it's kind of hard to do it virtually. But when that garden's finished and it's no longer producing, or either it's no longer producing or you're just tired of fooling with it, please remember to remove all your plants at the end of the season. Leaving dead plants out in your garden all winter long, those plants have diseases in them. The diseases are just, and the insects are just multiplying. So when you go to raise a crop in that same plot of ground next year, you're going to have problems. So, and plus it speeds up next year's gardening. The plot's already clean and pretty and ready to turn that soil. Now's a good time if you want to use fresh manure in your gardens. The fall is the best time to use fresh manure. We don't use fresh manure in the, notice when I said that earlier, I said dry or old. Fresh manure still has a lot of seeds, possibly, that are going to cause weeds, and that have pathogens in them. So we don't use fresh manure on a garden in the spring, but you might want to use it in the fall. And the reason you can use it in the fall is it has all winter to deteriorate or to break down and work into your soil. So our references, this is the copies of the things that you should receive from your agent. If you didn't, please don't hesitate to call them because they will gladly email it to you or make you some copies for them. This is a very good preparing your garden handout. I know that's messing with the writing. Everything pretty much from this PowerPoint is in here. Tips and tricks for starting a backyard garden is one that's put out by Kentucky State. This one is put up by our Nutrition NEP UK College of Agriculture. I'll get it out in a minute. College of Agriculture in partnership with our nutrition education program. And this one is put out by K-State, Kentucky State University. And then the photos that I used in the PowerPoint came from those publications. And I wanted to give him, no. What happened here? I just realized this recording is going to be so full of so many different things. I'm back. There we go. There we go. What's next? This publication that you see here, Home Vegetable Gardening in Kentucky, is available at your extension office. I will tell you, it's about 50 pages. This is for the serious gardener. And if you are one of those, then please, we will gladly print this for you. I encourage you to call ahead. We don't keep a bunch of these printed up anymore because they are they're dated and the information in them changes yearly. So be careful about that. But if you would like one, you can call your extension office and get a copy. It has, even if you want to do some commercial, start thinking about commercial production of garden vegetables, there's a little bit of that in it. It's based for the home vegetable garden. I will have to tell you, I told you about Janet Lake and her post on Facebook. And I hope, yeah, there we go. This one worked. This is, I cut and paste this straight from Facebook. This is my post. She had that picture of her gardens on there, and that was just one of about 4. And I posted, Janet, beautiful. Would you teach the gardening lesson with me? That's what we're doing right now. And this was her response, and I loved it. I said, can I share this with our people? Her response was, Kay, that's so funny. I don't know anything other than you put the seed in the ground, you have good ground, and a great husband. So people, if you want to have a good garden, maybe Janet will share her great husband to work in your great garden. But she reinforced that good ground that I was talking about. So questions? Okay.
Kay,
Yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
In the leaflets and stuff that I got from the extension office, there is evaluation sheet in here.
Yes.
Is that for my club members, or do I fill that out and send it to you, or
Okay.
what?
That's perfect lead in. And I didn't pay you to do that, did I?
You did not?
Okay. What it is the little packet of seeds that Shonda, oh, there they are right beside of me. These seeds right here. Okay. If you fill out your evaluation, anybody who watches this Zoom is recorded, and it's going to be on Bourbon County's YouTube channel. Okay. If you're familiar with using YouTube, it will be recorded and be there. So anybody that watches this video, or any of you that are watching tonight, if you fill out the evaluation, you will receive a packet of these seeds. This is my thank you for being my guinea pig. Okay. And that's what I wanted to share with you. I really, really, really appreciate your patience. I struggle to sit still this long. So I really admire you guys for sitting still this long. And I also hate PowerPoints, by the way. I use PowerPoints in my presentations, my live presentations, just to keep me from going off on tangents and telling stories. I love to tell stories about my family, and I did get a few of those in. But to answer your question, if you fill out that evaluation, Sue, is that who asked that question?
Yes.
What county are you? Remind me, please.
Scott County.
Okay. Scott County has these. Okay, there's a few counties. Madison County, I'm going to try to take yours to you tomorrow or Monday. Let me tell you what happened. I was going to mail all these, but then China up and sent seeds in the mail, and everybody's scared to death to get seeds in the mail now. So I had to hand deliver them. So Scott County, Ben took yours over there the other day. So if you'll take your evaluation in,
Right.
check with one of the agents, because you all don't have any staff assistants right now, but you will soon. But somebody there will be able to give you a packet of these seeds if you hand them an evaluation.
All right. Thank
That
you.
makes sense? Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to go plant these seeds in the other room. If you're tired or you don't want to watch or whatever, or if I lose you, because the goal was to do this on my phone in there. Let's see if that happens. So it'll be quiet for just a minute, okay? I'll be right back.
That's all right. I can feel the time. So I'm going to put a shameless plug in. I'm in the Clark County FCS agent, if you all don't know. And I let Kay do this amazing guinea pig because I'm next. So the leader lesson for next month, we will be doing the same type of format, and Kay has shared all of her tips, and we'll probably, have some other great information, but we're doing couponing and budgeting apps next month. So keep an eye out for that. And like I said, Kay's done an awesome job, and this is a new forum for all of us. So we're really just trying to work it out. So we really appreciate you guys.
We're going to do your seeds. I've got a pot here. It has no holes in the bottom. If you get a pot that has no holes in the bottom, remember, you got to have soil that drains well. So we're just going to use small gravel. This is actually smaller than what I normally want. But I just use more of it. And the whole point of using the gravel is to hold the soil up, okay? We put some gravel in the bottom. And then, I got to show you these before I go any farther. You can use gloves if you want. But how many of you have seen these? This is so much fun. Can you see
You can see them. They're scary.
They have points on them. They're to dig in dirt, like when you're planting things, or to wear at Halloween, whichever. So, but I just thought those were so cool. After that, we're going to put the soil in. This isn't going quite as planned, but close, okay? Our soil has big clumps in it. Can you see that? That would be like what we would do when we talk about working the soil. We're breaking those clumps up. You raised bed or a pot, or if it was a ground, the soil like a garden plot, you probably want to use a shovel to do that. Okay, I'm just going to check and make sure, and I realize you can't see, but we're going to fill this up with soil, excuse me. I need a little thing that's like dirt's a dirty word. And then on the back of the packet, it says that you're going to plant these seeds about 1/4 of an inch deep. See that? That top part is 1/4 of an inch. It's not very big. So let's get these. I think it'll probably hold all of this. Many of you took Shonda's oil class last year when she taught about the essential oils. This isn't nearly as much fun as that was, Shonda. Sorry. That was fun. Okay, I'm going to rake a little bit over to the sides. We're going to take our seeds and we're just going to sprinkle them very lightly, not all in one place. Now, this has, and I have to put my glasses back on to read it, this packet has sweet basil, oregano, chives, parsley in it. It's got a wide assortment. You're going to have to, I'm going to lightly cover this, my little seeds, and I mean lightly because 1/4 of an inch isn't very much. Break up my clots. And then just gently, not pour it all in one spot. That's potting soil too. I forgot to tell you that. That's not soil from out back. It's potting soil. And then we'll check on the moisture. How do we check on it? Remember, we stick our finger down in it 2 inches. See if it's moist each day. If it needs some more water, we'll mop. The reason I did herbs is because you can grow these inside, you can grow them outside, you can have them wherever. Now, obviously, you can't do them if it's frost outside and cold weather. But if you have them outside, you can bring them in. The one thing that I caution you on, because we did these once before, remember all those things I said are in there? This pot is only big enough for about 4 plants of herbs. We talked about transplanting. You might want to transplant them into other pots. I don't know how much you use herbs. I love fresh herbs. I've got basil in my house right now. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I just love the smell. It makes my kitchen smell so good. I bought it at Farmer's Market the other day. It was only 75 cents, and I figured it's worth every bit of 75 cents just to smell it. So, but try this out. And as you know, you can let them grow fairly big, but when you see that they're getting, when they're big enough for you to identify what's a basil and what's oregano, then you might want to transplant some of them. There's also, and I didn't bring it with, oh, there it is. There is a handout on growing herbs, okay? When you go get your herbs, when you turn your evaluation in to your extension office, they'll give you a packet of herbs, and they'll give you this handout that says, learn more about growing herbs in containers. And that's exactly what this is. Voila. Questions?
Where did you get the gloves that has the dig thing, the claws on them?
Amazon.
Oh, okay.
Amazon, okay. Sorry, but I got these back. I started on this lesson. I told you I've changed this lesson 5 times. And I started on this lesson. We couldn't get anything anywhere, okay? So I just started looking at possible things new and different in gardening. And the shipping was a problem with a lot of places. But
Yes.
Amazon, I got these little claws. Oh, I'll mess up my seeds. I can do it here. See this? This is something else you might want to consider. We just took plain old garlic out of the grocery store, pulled a clove off, and put it in this pot here, and we dug a little spot, and it's growing. It's a garlic.
Yes.
I don't know what it's gonna be like. It's an experiment. Remember, I told you experiment. We experimented with celery. You cut the bottom off the stalk of the celery when you buy it. It will grow new celery. So I thought, okay, why do I buy celery? Because sometimes I'll waste celery because I don't use enough of it. And I'll start raising celery just out of a pot in the kitchen. Let me tell you, it took forever for that celery to grow. It works, just not on my time frame.
What is the name of the gloves?
The gloves?
So I just Googled, I searched while she was talking, and I Googled and searched claw gloves and got pictures of all of those. And it said Walmart had them, but I couldn't pick them up from the Walmart. So I don't know if they actually sell them in store or if I could order it and pick it up there.
Thank you.
But you know, when you're let me go back. When I'm weeding my flowers, when you start picking at those little tiny weeds, after a while, another time that my fingernails start hurting is when I'm getting the dead buds off my roses. I'm anxious to try them on that kind of stuff because, I mean, those ends, whoops, it might help if I put that on the right hand.
Oh, we're not. She's funny.
Questions? Okay, well, I really, you don't know. I hope every single one of you got your name in the chat box. Some of you on phones, I hope I can find out. You know, at the end where I had my slide up with my email on it, I hope you will email me because I cannot say enough how appreciative I am of you guys for enduring this with me. It was fun. I bet it'd be a lot more fun if we were doing it in person.
Kay, you did a wonderful job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Julie. I'm here too. I'm her daughter-in-law, her favorite daughter-in-law.
Did you help her with the Zoom?
Just a little bit.
Yes.
So now you can go out and tell them I'm Zooming.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Bye.